Hello, this is Telecom TV. We are at ETSI NFV number 13, and this time we're in Dublin in Ireland. We're in the boardroom, and a very flashy boardroom it is too, at Croke Park, which is the home of the Gaelic Athletic Association, where they do they sponsor the hurling and all sorts of other Gaelic games and look after the Irish language and so on. So it's a privilege to be here in what is a historically significant place. And I'm talking with Don Clark, Principal Architect, Network Technologies at Cable Labs. Don, you and I are old muckers. We've talked to each other a lot of time over the years, and we've done a lot of these ETSI NFVs together. Let's start with this. After all the excitement around the announcement of NFV as a technology, the proofs of concept that followed and the field trials that followed on those, the actual commercial rollout of virtualized services seems to have been in many ways moderately slow and quite partial. Has it been taking longer than you expected? And if so, why? And for example, is it because service providers are rather more cautious than the vendors thought they might be?
That's, as I used to say quite often in my interviews with Martin, it's a good question, isn't it? I'm actually pretty confident about the answer to this one. It isn't taking longer than I expected. Actually, it's been quite amazing that there's been very steady progress. I think the key thing about this is it's a transformation, right? So there's no point technology that suddenly will be adopted and rolled out. This is a transformation in the way that we do networks and design networks, implement networks. So given it's a complete transformation, there's a journey. I know it's a bit of a cliche to say the journey, but actually the journey's been, it started up relatively rapidly because there were some early use cases and trials that happened very quickly. We rapidly built a lot of proof of concepts. I think we're now up to about 39 with another one introduced today. So the vendors started to engage very quickly. The internal silos of vendors broke down much more quickly than I thought, because remember we're talking about hardware product lines suddenly becoming software product lines. So in terms of internal vendor dynamics, that's been quite significant. And so that does take time, right? And they've got a whole new constituency of vendors that come from the software world, and they of course they understand software, but they don't really understand networks so much. I mean, it's a different beast to connect top of rack switches in a data center to connecting virtual network functions across the real estate of a telecoms environment, and then to interoperate with similar equipment somewhere across the Atlantic. So I think that it's a very steady progress that we're seeing, and therefore because it's been steady and it's now building quite significantly, I would say that it isn't slower than I expected at all. It's really quite encouraging that we have that steady build out.
I've asked other interviewees the same question, of course, and it seems to be the consensus. You're just confirming that being the case. A lot of people have said, no, there's a difference between marketing hype and the market itself, and not everybody starts from the same place.
Right, and I think it's a very good point that some operators that very publicly have gone for a fairly significant transformation. And I'm reminded about previous times when operators have done that. They've gone for a massive transformation. And internally, that means that root and branch, not just the supply chain changes, but the internal skills need to change. So some operators, and we know who they are, have gone very publicly on that stance, and we're seeing a steady build up in their activities. Other operators are still working out what's the best way to do this. Some of them are for sure looking to see what mistakes might be made or what learning could be had from those that go first. So that's the fast follower mentality. And then others have got other things that they're currently worrying about. And so you're seeing like a horse race. You're seeing some out there in front, others or you might say a marathon. Others are coming from behind, but ultimately they'll all end up in the same place. Just some are going faster than others.
What about the difference between Tier 1 service providers, the likes of BT, DT, AT&T and so on, and the others? I wouldn't say also rans, because they're in different markets, but the Tier 2s and Tier 3s, there must be an appreciable difference in the ability to move at a certain rate between those Tier 1s and the others.
They're all